Hi, you're live with the Krishna team. I'm Ruth.
I'm Yesenia.
Today, we thought it'd be fun to talk to you guys a little bit about TICs and why they're different from condos, which is a question that we get a lot. So Yesenia, why don't you kick it off? Tell us a little bit about the lending products on TICs, like what's available in the loan space.
So with the TIC, you do have to work with a TIC lender. You can't go to your conventional Wells Fargo or Chase to get a loan. Historically, with TIC loans, you were only offered adjustable rate mortgages up to 7 years. And generally, the interest rates were a pretty large delta between your conventional loan to the TIC loan. It's actually new news that you can actually get a 30-year fixed mortgage on a TIC loan. So that's great news and offers a little bit more flexibility in that lending.
What about the group loan thing that people talk about? What's the deal with that?
Yes. Group loans are not a thing anymore. They are a total thing of the past. So previously, when TICs first came about, you actually had to get a group loan.
Yeah.
So you bought the building and you got one loan for everyone in the building.
Yeah.
And so that's, obviously really scary for a lot of reasons, because what if somebody defaults, then that falls on you, right?
I have to show you all my finances, see all your finances.
Yeah, so it's super, super involved, and of course nobody wants to do that anymore. But that's not a thing anymore, and so TICs are now fractional loans, so you can actually get your own loan, and so every individual in a 4-unit building generally has their own loan. I don't even think we've run into a group loan in a long time. I think I have once.
I see them occasionally on like buildings that were purchased a long, long time ago.
Yeah, that's right.
But I do think that a lot of people here, like the TICs are really scary because of group loans.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're like thinking that that's how they're happening right now.
That's right.
When in fact, like nobody buys a building that way.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of feel like you have your own space.
Yep.
And you definitely feel like it's a condo. In terms of everyday living, you feel like it's a condo. Your finances are protected just as much as they would be on a condo.
That's right.
In a way, I want to kind of hit that a little bit.
Yeah.
So there are some downsides to a TIC. Yeah. Well, first of all, I was on a call with a buyer the other day, and they said, well, I'm looking at this TIC, and I heard that I'm going to get like 20% discount for buying a TIC versus a condo.
Yeah, that's everyone's question.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you?
So it used to be that way, right? Like I think 3-4 years ago, it was like 20%.
Yep.
And back to your financing thing, at that point when there was that 20% variable, there was about 2% difference on the interest rate between a TIC loan and a conventional loan. And so that, for every interest rate, it's 10% on the purchase price. So that actually it kind of made it even.
Yep.
And now, I don't know if you've looked at a TIC loan lately, but do you have any idea what the percentage difference is between a conventional and a TIC?
So about 3.5%, which was not too different,
versus
right?
maybe 3?
3, yeah.
So about a 0.5 percentage point. So what I'm seeing is the last time I pulled the data, there was about a 5% difference in sales price between a TIC and a condo. And so that kind of means like net, you're probably paying the same.
Yeah. So with that, so why would you buy a TIC?
Because you like it? I think that's right.
Yeah,
I think a lot of times when buyers reach out to us, it's like, I saw this great thing. The buyer who reached out to me recently, like, oh my God, these views, this place is beautiful. I really want it. I'm not seeing another product. So like the product is pulling them in. Like, I don't think anybody's like, I'm a TIC buyer.
That's true.
I'm prepared for a TIC. I'm about to buy a TIC. It's like they stumble into a property that they really like. And then they're left figuring out like, okay, what is this thing?
Right.
And is it risky? Right. So I think that there are some risks, right, to TICs.
Yeah.
So like what happens when the market goes down?
So what we've seen is that when the market, goes down, that TICs take a bigger hit. right? So compared to your single family home, then you've got condos and then you've got TICs. And so those generally don't do very well when the market goes down. And aside from, them taking a bigger hit, there's this other, big risk to a TIC, which really has to do with a lot with rent control, which we all know rent control in San Francisco is a big deal.
Yeah, so that's the elephant in the room. The way that San Francisco rent control laws work is that TICs have the most stringent form of rent control, which means that on a lot of properties, if somebody wants to remove a tenant, they will raise the rent. And then the tenant will oftentimes put in notice. So on any property, you're not really supposed to give a tenant notice per se. But oftentimes if you raise the rent, they'll decide to relocate.
Right.
So on a TIC, you cannot raise the rent. You cannot get them out unless they want to leave.
Right.
And so if the market goes down, then the rental market also probably went down.
Yep. That's right.
And so now I want to move to Palo Alto to be near my parents and have a bigger house. And I have this TIC and the market's down and it's a great time for me to buy in Palo Alto because the market hopefully is down in Palo Alto. Seems like it's never down in Palo Alto. And then what do I do, right? It's like, I don't want to rent it because now rents are low and I'm going to be locked in at that rent. And I don't want to sell it because the sales price is also low. That's the risk.
Yeah, and getting locked into that low rent with a tenant in a TIC, you do have rent restrictions and how much you could raise the rent, which is it 1 or 2% at this point?
I think the city judges every year, but I think usually it's around like 1.5% is the amount that you're able to raise it. So if suddenly the market went up 10, 15, 20% to catch up from a downfall, if over the next few years, you better believe they don't. Those tenants don't want to leave, right? Yep. So they're probably going to stay. And so I'd say that's probably the biggest risk. I'm trying to think about anything else with a TIC. You have one property tax bill.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a minor inconvenience because you're doing that with all of your co-tenants. Yeah. What about the HOA? Is it run any differently in terms of your relationships with your neighbors and stuff?
No, I mean, the TIC really runs and acts like a condo. The HOA, runs the same way. You have common areas in the building that are shared expenses with the other owners in the building. Title's held a little bit different, so that's one thing. You have, one title for the entire building, so you own a percentage of interest in the entire building. Versus in a condo, you own the 4 walls in your unit and the percentage of interest in the common areas. But in terms of the way they run, they run pretty much the same. I don't think you would notice a difference in that. So why do TICs even exist?
Great question. So basically, we're in a city that doesn't have enough housing, right? And, there were a lot of these multi-unit buildings. And so those were historically only rented, right? And so... some people thought, well, if we could allow pieces of those buildings to be sold, then we'd have more housing. But part of that negotiation was, San Francisco really wants to protect tenants. Right. So in order for that negotiation to be reached, then it was decided that if the city was going to allow these things to be sold off, pieces of these buildings, then they would want to have additional rent controls on those pieces. And we see TICs, I want to say they've been around for maybe 20 years-ish. So at this point, really the contracts have really been worked out. I'm not seeing a lot of lawsuits or anything like that come up over these agreements. And I think they're very common in San Francisco, New York, and Chicago. So cities where there's just more housing density, right? And probably more multi-units.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that's it on TICs, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered the most asked questions at least, but we're happy to chat with you and your unique needs and how we could help.
So if you have any questions about TICs or anything about buying or selling, Yesenia and I are here to help you. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button below.